The ship Zephyr's Dawn moved through space like a silent whale through dark water. Inside its metal belly, 3 alien beings sat around a glowing table, staring at a blue and green planet that spun slowly on their screen. Captain Veltar looked like a walking crystal sculpture. His body caught the ship's lights and threw rainbow colors across the walls. When he spoke, his voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "This world shows signs of life," he said to his crew. "Simple creatures, nothing more." Dr. Nixola floated nearby, her purple tentacles moving like underwater plants. She had studied life on 100 worlds, and her large black eyes had seen every kind of creature the galaxy could make. "The readings show basic mammals," she said, waving a tentacle at the data. "2 legs, simple tools, very primitive. They barely count as intelligent." Commander Hessick clicked his insect-like claws against his chair. His 6 eyes blinked in sequence as he studied the planet below. His people were warriors, born to fight, but even he saw no threat from this quiet world. "Should we make contact?" he asked in his buzzing voice. "No need," Captain Veltar replied. "We observe from distance. Study them like we would study any animal. They cannot hurt us or help us." The ship dropped through the planet's atmosphere like a falling leaf. Their cloaking device made them invisible to any creature below. They chose a place covered in tall trees and thick grass, where their sensors had found the most activity. Jake Morrison walked through the forest with steady steps. He wore a brown uniform with patches that said Park Ranger and carried a backpack full of equipment. His job was simple: check on the animals, make sure the trails were safe, and help any visitors who got lost. He had done this work for 5 years and loved every day of it. The aliens watched him from their hidden ship floating 30 feet above the treetops. To them, Jake looked like any other animal they had studied. He walked on 2 legs like many creatures they had seen. He used simple tools like sticks and ropes. His teeth were flat, not sharp like a hunter. His hands had no claws. His body looked soft and weak. "Fascinating," Dr. Nixola said as she watched Jake check a camera tied to a tree. "Look how slowly it moves. No speed, no strength. It must eat plants and small insects." Jake pulled out a notebook and wrote down numbers from the camera. The device had taken pictures of deer, rabbits, and foxes during the night. He smiled as he saw a photo of a mother deer with her baby. This was why he loved his job, protecting these beautiful creatures and their home. Commander Hessick studied Jake through the ship's scanners. "Its body shows no armor, no natural weapons. The skin looks thin. A child of my species could defeat it easily." Captain Veltar nodded his crystal head. "Mark it down as harmless. Probably eats berries and nuts. Maybe small fish from the streams." Jake moved deeper into the forest, following a trail he had walked 1,000 times. He stopped to pick up trash that campers had left behind, putting it in his backpack. He checked water sources to make sure they were clean. He looked for signs of sick animals or damaged trees. The aliens followed him from above, their ship moving as quietly as a cloud. They took notes about everything Jake did. They measured how fast he walked, very slow by their standards. They watched how he avoided thick bushes and steep rocks, clear signs of weakness. They saw how he stopped to rest and drink water, proof that his body was fragile. "This species must live very peaceful lives," Dr. Nixola said. "No fighting, no hunting. They probably gather food together and share it with their young." Jake sat on a fallen log and ate his lunch, a sandwich, an apple, and water from a metal bottle. He looked around at the forest and felt the peace that always came to him in nature. Birds sang in the trees. A squirrel ran across the path. The sun made patterns of light and shadow through the leaves. The aliens watched him eat and recorded everything. "See how small its mouth is," Commander Hessick observed. "Made for soft foods only. No way it could bite through tough skin or crack bones." Captain Veltar was already thinking about their report to the Galactic Council. "Another peaceful world, with gentle creatures. We will recommend it for future study. Perhaps we can learn about their social behaviors." Jake finished his lunch and continued his patrol. He checked more cameras, tested more water sources, and picked up more trash. To him, it was just another normal day in the job he loved. He had no idea that 3 alien beings watched his every move from above, studying him like scientists study ants. As the day grew late, Jake started walking back toward his truck. The aliens prepared to return to their main ship in orbit. They had seen enough to classify this creature and its species. Simple, weak, harmless plant eaters who lived quiet lives in the forest. Tomorrow we will observe their social groups, Dr. Nixola said. See how they care for their young and share resources. Yes, agreed Captain Veltar. This will be an easy study. No dangers, no surprises. Just peaceful creatures living simple lives. Jake reached his truck as the sun began to set. He loaded his equipment in the back and started the engine. As he drove away, the alien ship followed high above, invisible against the darkening sky. None of them knew that tomorrow would change everything. None of them knew that Jake Morrison was about to show them what humans really were when pushed to their limits. None of them understood that they had made the most dangerous mistake possible. They had underestimated humanity. The next morning brought dark clouds and the smell of rain. Jake Morrison drove his truck through winding forest roads, his radio crackling with reports that made his stomach tight with worry. 3 campsites had been destroyed during the night. Tents were torn to pieces. Food containers were crushed like paper cups. Deep claw marks scored the trees around each campsite. This is getting worse, Jake said into his radio. I'm heading to the North Trail to check for more signs, his boss replied through static. Be careful out there, Jake, whatever is doing. This is big and angry. Maybe you should wait for backup. I'll be fine, Jake said, but his hand moved to check the tranquilizer gun on his belt. The small weapon looked even smaller than usual today. High above the forest canopy, the alien ship followed Jake's truck. Inside, Dr. Nixola studied the readings from her scanners with growing excitement. Captain, I am detecting a massive life form in this area, much larger than our subject. Captain Veltar moved closer to look at the data. The readings showed something huge moving through the forest, something that weighed more than 5 of their peaceful human subjects put together. What kind of creature is it? Commander Hesseck's 6 eyes focused on the scanner display. Quadruped, thick fur, massive claws and teeth. This must be the apex predator of this region. Dr. Nixola's tentacles writhed with scientific curiosity. Fascinating. A perfect example of natural selection. The large predator rules this territory while the smaller creatures like our human live in fear. 2 miles away, the massive grizzly bear that had terrorized the forest for weeks continued its rampage. The animal stood 9 feet tall on its back, legs, and weighed over 800 pounds. But this was not a normal bear behaving in normal ways. A parasite had infected its brain, filling it with constant rage and pain. The bear could not think clearly anymore. It only knew anger and the need to destroy everything in its path. The bear smashed through a wooden fence around a camping area. Its claws, each as long as a man's finger, tore through the wood like it was made of paper. It overturned garbage cans and scattered their contents across the ground. It left deep gouges in tree trunks, marking its territory with violent scratches. Jake parked his truck and got out to examine the latest damage. The fence posts were snapped in half. Metal garbage cans were bent and twisted. He knelt down to study the paw prints in the soft dirt. Each print was bigger than a dinner plate, with claw marks extending far beyond the pad. Jesus, Jake whispered. He had seen bear tracks before, but nothing like this. This animal was enormous, and from the destruction around him, it was completely out of control. The alien ship hovered silently above as Dr. Nixola took detailed scans of the bear. Captain, this creature is incredible. Bone density 3 times normal. Muscle mass that could crush stone. Claws that could tear through metal. This is clearly the dominant species in this ecosystem. Captain Veltar watched as the bear destroyed another campsite half a mile away. And our human subject is tracking it? It appears so, Commander Hesseck buzzed. The small creature follows the large one's trail. Perhaps it feeds on the remains the predator leaves behind. Jake followed the bear's path of destruction deeper into the forest. Broken branches hung from trees. Deep scratches marked every surface. The bear had even attacked rocks, leaving claw marks in stone. Jake had never seen anything like it in all his years as a ranger. His radio crackled. "Jake? We just got another report. The bear hit the Morrison Creek campground an hour ago. Destroyed 6 tents. A family had to hide in their car for 3 hours." Jake's jaw tightened. Morrison Creek was his favorite camping spot, named after his grandfather who had worked these forests 50 years ago. Now some mad bear was turning it into a war zone. The aliens continued their observations, making detailed notes about Earth's food chain. "See how the small human stays far behind the great predator," Dr. Nixola said. "It knows its place in the natural order." "Primitive but smart," agreed Commander Hessick. "It understands that the larger creature could kill it instantly." The bear's rampage continued through the afternoon. It attacked a park maintenance shed, tearing the metal roof off with its claws. It destroyed hiking trail signs, reducing them to splinters. It even attacked a small bridge, damaging it so badly that Jake would have to close the trail. Jake found each new destruction site and documented it with photos and notes. His anger grew with every ruined campsite and damaged trail. This was his forest, his responsibility. These were his trails and his camping areas. Some sick animal was destroying everything he worked to protect. The bear's tracks led toward Dead Man's Canyon, a narrow, rocky area where the cliffs rose high on both sides. Jake knew the terrain well. There would be no escape routes in the canyon. If he met the bear there, one of them would not come out alive. Dr. Nixola's scanners tracked both creatures as they moved toward the same destination. "How interesting. Both life forms are converging on the narrow canyon area. The small one does not know what awaits it," Captain Veltar observed. "Perhaps we should intervene to save the primitive creature." Commander Hessick shook his insect head. "Our protocols forbid interference. We observe only. Besides, the small human has no chance against such a massive predator. This will be over quickly." The sun began to set as Jake reached the entrance to Dead Man's Canyon. Fresh bear tracks led into the narrow passage between the stone walls. Deep scratches on the canyon wall showed where the bear had sharpened its claws on rock. Jake checked his tranquilizer gun one more time. The small dart looked pathetic compared to the massive creature he was following. But he had a job to do. People were counting on him to stop this threat. Above in their ship, the 3 aliens prepared to witness what they believed would be a one-sided slaughter. They had studied the data. They knew which creature was stronger, faster, and better, armed for combat. They were about to learn how wrong they could be. Jake Morrison stepped into Dead Man's Canyon as the last sunlight disappeared behind the rocky walls. The narrow passage stretched ahead of him like a stone tunnel. High cliffs rose on both sides, blocking out most of the sky. His footsteps echoed off the walls as he followed the bear's massive tracks deeper into the canyon. The alien ship hovered silently above the canyon rim. Inside, the 3 beings watched their screens with scientific interest. Dr. Nixola adjusted her scanners to get better readings through the rock walls. "The small human has entered the kill zone," she said, her tentacles moving with excitement. "The large predator waits ahead. This will be an excellent opportunity to study hunting behavior." Captain Veltar's crystal body caught the dim light from the screens. "How long do you estimate the encounter will last?" Commander Hessick clicked his claws together. "Seconds. The large creature outweighs the small one by 5 to 1. The human has no natural weapons, no armor, no speed advantage. It will be over before it begins." Jake moved carefully through the canyon, his eyes scanning the shadows ahead. The bear's tracks were fresh here, pressed deep into the sandy ground between the rocks. Claw marks on the canyon walls showed where the massive animal had scraped against the stone. The smell hit him first, a thick, wild odor of fur and rage that made his nose wrinkle. Then he heard the heavy breathing, like a broken engine gasping for air. The bear was close, very close. Jake pulled out his tranquilizer gun and checked the dart one more time. The small needle looked like a toy compared to what he was about to face, but it was all he had. The bear appeared around a bend in the canyon like a mountain of fur and muscle. It stood on its back legs, towering 9 feet into the air. Its massive, Head swayed back and forth as it caught Jake's scent. Foam dripped from its mouth. Its small eyes burned with the madness of the parasite that controlled its brain. Jake stopped walking. For a moment, man and bear stared at each other across 20 feet of rocky ground. The canyon walls trapped them both in this narrow space. There was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. The bear dropped to all four legs and let out a roar that shook dust from the canyon walls. The sound echoed back and forth between the cliffs, growing louder with each bounce. It was the sound of pure rage, of a creature that wanted to destroy everything in its path. Above them, the aliens recorded every detail. "Magnificent," Dr. Nixola whispered. "Look at the size of those claws. Each one could tear the human in half." Jake raised his tranquilizer gun and fired. The dart flew straight toward the bear's chest, but when it hit the thick fur, it barely penetrated the skin. The bear looked down at the small needle like it was an annoying insect bite, then brushed it away with one massive paw. The humans. "Weapon has failed," Commander Hessick observed. "Now we will see the natural order in action." The bear charged. 800 pounds of muscle and fury thundered across the canyon floor. Its massive paws pounded against the rock like sledgehammers. Its mouth hung open, showing teeth the size of a man's thumb. Jake did not run. Jake did not try to climb the canyon walls. Jake did not fall to his knees and beg for mercy. Instead, Jake Morrison stepped forward to meet the charging bear. The aliens could not believe what they were seeing. "What is it doing?" Dr. Nixola gasped. "Why does it not flee?" Captain Veltar leaned closer to his screen. "This behavior makes no sense. The small creature should show fear, should try to escape." But Jake showed no fear. As the bear reached him, Jake moved with a speed that surprised everyone watching. He stepped to the side at the last second and grabbed the bear's massive head with both hands. The bear's momentum carried both creatures forward, but Jake held on. His fingers found grip points behind the bear's ears. His arms, strengthened by years of manual labor and rock climbing, locked around the animal's skull like steel cables. Commander Hessick's 6 eyes blinked in rapid sequence. "This is impossible. The human's grip strength readings are off our scales." The bear tried to shake Jake loose, swinging its massive head back and forth. But Jake held on, his body moving with the bear's motion like a rider on a wild horse. The bear reared up on its back legs, trying to use its full height advantage. Jake pulled himself higher, wrapping his legs around the bear's thick neck. Now he rode the massive creature like a man riding a tornado. The bear spun in circles, crashed against the canyon walls, and roared with frustration. But Jake would not let go. Dr. Nixola's scanners showed readings she had never seen before. "Captain, the human's body is changing. Adrenaline levels are increasing beyond safe limits. Muscle efficiency is rising dramatically. Heart rate and breathing are entering combat mode." "Combat mode?" Captain Veltar asked. "What combat mode?" The bear slammed its back against the canyon wall, trying to crush Jake between its body and the stone. Jake felt ribs crack, felt pain shoot through his chest. But instead of weakening him, the pain seemed to make him stronger. Something deep and primitive awakened in his brain, something that his civilized life had kept buried. Jake's grip on the bear's head tightened. His fingers found pressure points that he had learned in military training years ago. He began to squeeze, applying force to nerves and blood vessels with surgical precision. The bear's struggles became more frantic. It could feel something wrong happening, could feel its strength starting to fade, but it could not shake the small creature that clung to its head like a parasite. Commander Hessick backed away from his viewing screen. Something in the human's movements triggered ancient fears in his warrior mind. "Captain, I recommend we increase our distance from this encounter." "Why?" Captain Veltar asked, but his crystal body was already beginning to resonate with nervous energy. On the canyon floor below, Jake Morrison continued his death grip on the massive bear's head. His civilized mind had stepped aside, replaced by something much older and infinitely more dangerous. The bear was about to learn what humans really were when all pretense of civilization fell away. The aliens were about to witness the most terrifying truth in the galaxy, that the quiet, peaceful creatures they had dismissed as harmless were actually the most dangerous predators that had ever evolved. Jake's hands found the exact spot behind the bear's ears where the skull was thinnest. Years of hunting, fishing, and field dressing animals had taught him anatomy that no alien scanner could measure. He knew where every creature was vulnerable. He knew how to kill with precision. The bear thrashed wildly, trying to throw Jake off its back. But Jake moved with the animal's motion, his body flowing like water around its massive frame. His legs locked around the bear's thick neck. His arms became steel cables that would not break. Above them, Dr. Nixola watched her scanners with growing terror. Captain, the human's body chemistry is changing rapidly. Hormone levels are spiking beyond anything we have recorded. Its muscle fibers are contracting with impossible force. Captain Veltar's crystal body began to vibrate with high-pitched frequencies of fear. This cannot be accurate. No creature that size should generate such power readings. Commander Hessick clicked his claws nervously. Even his warrior instincts were screaming danger signals. The small creature is not small anymore. Something has awakened inside it. Jake felt the change happening in his body. His vision became sharper. His hearing picked up every sound the bear made. His muscles felt like they were made of steel wire. The pain from his cracked ribs disappeared. Pushed aside by chemicals his brain was dumping into his blood. This was what his drill sergeant had called the zone during combat training. This was what happened when a human stopped thinking and started surviving. Jake's civilized mind stepped back and let something much older take control. The bear slammed against the canyon wall again, harder this time. Rock chips flew as its massive body hit the stone. But Jake absorbed the impact and held on. His grip on the bear's head tightened like a slowly closing vise. Jake found the pressure point he was looking for. His thumb pressed against a nerve cluster that would cut off blood flow to the bear's brain. But instead of applying gentle pressure like a martial arts expert, Jake used the crushing force of a man who had spent years breaking rocks with his bare hands. The bear's struggles became desperate. It could feel its strength fading as blood flow to its brain decreased. It tried to reach Jake with its massive claws, but the human stayed just out of reach, positioned perfectly on the animal's head and neck. Dr. Nixola's tentacles writhed, in panic as she watched the readings. The human is systematically shutting down the predator's nervous system. It knows exactly where to apply pressure. This is not random violence. This is surgical precision. Jake shifted his position and found another pressure point. His military training had included lessons on disabling enemies quickly and quietly. Those lessons came flooding back now, mixed with hunting knowledge passed down from his grandfather and father. The bear tried one last desperate move. It reared up to its full 9-foot height and threw itself backward, attempting to crush Jake against the canyon floor. But Jake saw it coming. As they fell, he twisted his body and used the bear's own weight against it. They hit the ground with the bear on bottom and Jake on top. The impact drove the air from the bear's lungs with a sound like a deflating balloon. Jake's knees found the animal's ribs and applied crushing pressure. Commander Hessick backed away from his viewing screen. Captain, I recommend we leave this system immediately. We have made a terrible mistake in our classification. What kind of mistake? Captain Veltar asked, though his crystalline form was already resonating with fear frequencies. We identified the wrong apex predator, Commander Hessick whispered. Jake wrapped his arm around the bear's throat in a chokehold that would have made his Marine instructors proud. But this was not a training exercise. This was life and death, in a narrow canyon with nowhere to run. The bear's struggles grew weaker. Its massive paws scraped helplessly at the canyon walls. Its breathing became shallow and rapid. The creature that had terrorized an entire forest was being systematically destroyed by something it had dismissed as prey. Jake felt the bear's pulse under his arm. He could have held the chokehold until the animal passed out peacefully. He could have waited for it to lose consciousness and then called for help to relocate it. Instead, Jake did what humans had been doing for 200,000 years when faced with a threat to their territory and their tribe. He eliminated the threat permanently. Jake shifted his grip and applied a technique he had learned in military combat training. One sharp twist, one precisely applied force, and the bear's massive neck snapped like a dry branch. The canyon fell silent except for Jake's heavy breathing. The enormous predator lay still beneath him, its reign of terror ended by a creature 1/5 its size. Above them, the three aliens sat in stunned silence. Their scanners showed the impossible truth. The small, peaceful creature they had observed eating lunch and picking up trash had just killed the apex predator of this world, with nothing but its bare hands. Dr. Nixola's voice was barely a whisper. "Captain, we need to recalculate our entire assessment of this species." Captain Veltar stared at the screen showing Jake as he calmly climbed off the dead bear. "What are they?" Commander Hessig's warrior instincts gave him the answer that chilled them all. "They are what we should have been afraid of from the beginning." Jake stood up and examined his work. The massive grizzly lay motionless at his feet. He checked his own injuries: cracked ribs, bruised arms, torn clothing. Nothing that would not heal. Nothing that would stop him from walking out of this canyon. He pulled out his radio and called his supervisor. "This is Jake Morrison. I found our problem bear in Deadman's Canyon. Threat has been neutralized. I'll need a recovery team for the carcass." His voice was calm, professional, like he had just completed routine paperwork instead of killing an 800-pound apex predator with his bare hands. The aliens watched him walk away from the scene like it was just another day at work. They were beginning to understand that for humans, maybe it was. Jake Morrison walked out of Deadman's Canyon like he was coming home from a normal day at the office. His uniform was torn and bloody. His ribs ached with every breath, but his steps were steady, and his voice was calm when he spoke into his radio. "Recovery. Team, this is Jake. Bring the heavy equipment. We're going to need the crane truck to move this thing." Above him, the alien ship followed silently. Inside, three beings sat in shocked silence, trying to process what they had witnessed. Their entire understanding of this world had been turned, upside down in less than an hour. Dr. Nixola stared at her scanner readings for the 10th time. "Captain, I have reviewed all the data. There is no error in our instruments. That small creature just killed the apex predator of this region using only its natural abilities." Captain Veltar's crystal body flickered with nervous energy. "But our initial scans showed them as peaceful plant eaters. How could we have been so wrong?" Commander Hessig was already accessing the ship's database, pulling up information about every world they had visited. "Captain, I am running comparisons with other species. Look at these readings." The data appeared on their main screen. Strength ratios, speed measurements, aggression levels, combat effectiveness. The numbers painted a picture that made all three. "Aliens feel sick by the void," Captain Veltar whispered. "They are stronger than Krathari warriors, faster than Vex hunters, more dangerous than Bloodclaw assassins." Dr. Nixola's tentacles curled in fear. "And we classified them as harmless herbivores. We watched one of them for an entire day and saw only peaceful behavior. That is what makes them so dangerous," Commander Hessig realized. "They hide their true nature. They appear weak and harmless until threatened. Then they become killing machines." On the ground below, Jake met the recovery team at the canyon entrance. His supervisor, Pete Wilson, took one look at Jake's condition and shook his head. "Jesus, Jake, you look like you went through a blender. Are you sure you're okay?" Jake touched his ribs gingerly. "Nothing a hot shower and some aspirin won't fix. The bear won't be bothering anyone anymore." Pete stared at him. "You actually killed it? With what?" "That little tranq gun wouldn't stop a raccoon, let alone a grizzly that size." Jake shrugged. "Had to get creative. Sometimes you work with what you have." The recovery team followed Jake into the canyon, bringing ropes and pulleys to move the massive carcass. When they saw the dead bear, several men stepped backward in shock. "Holy hell," one of them whispered. "That thing is huge. How did you manage to bring it down?" "Training," Jake said simply. "Marine Corps teaches you a lot about dealing with dangerous situations." Above them, the aliens listened to every word through their translation devices. Dr. Nixola made rapid notes in her database. "Did you hear that? Military training. This one creature has been specially prepared for combat, but that means there are others. Many others." Captain Veltar accessed the ship's long-range scanners and pointed them at the human settlements they had detected earlier. Cities appeared on their screens, millions of the creatures living together in massive groups. How many of them are there? He asked in a voice like breaking glass. The computer calculated the population and displayed the results. 7 billion humans on this one planet. 7 billion creatures that could apparently kill apex predators with their bare hands when necessary. Commander Hessick began pulling up historical data from their approach to this system. Captain, look at this. The humans have spread to every continent on their world, every climate zone, every type of terrain. They have adapted to environments that would kill most species. They are not just apex predators, Dr. Nixola realized with growing horror. They are super apex predators. They have conquered their entire planet. The recovery team worked for 2 hours to drag the massive bear out of the canyon. Jake helped guide the ropes and pulleys, showing no sign that he had just been in a life-or-death battle with the creature they were moving. As they loaded the bear onto their truck, Jake filled out paperwork like it was any other incident report. Cause of death, location of encounter, recommended follow-up actions. He wrote it all down in neat handwriting, then signed his name at the bottom. Just another day at the park, he told Pete with a tired smile. The aliens watched this casual attitude with growing terror. The creature had just committed an act of violence that would have impressed their greatest warriors, then treated it like routine maintenance. Captain, Commander Hessick said quietly, we need to leave this system immediately, and we need to make sure no other ships come here. Why? Captain Veltar asked, though he was already beginning to understand. Because if these creatures ever develop space travel, they will spread across the galaxy like a plague. Nothing will be able to stop them. Dr. Nixola was already working on their departure calculations. I recommend we mark this system as a forbidden zone. Class 5 threat level. Do not approach under any circumstances. Captain Veltar made the decision that would save countless alien lives in the years to come. Agreed. We leave now, and we send a warning to the Galactic Council. As their ship rose through the atmosphere, the 3 aliens composed their message. It would be buried deep in classified files, read only by the highest levels of galactic government. Species designation, human. Planet designation, Earth. Classification, extreme threat. These creatures appear peaceful, but possess combat capabilities that exceed all known parameters. They have achieved planetary dominance through superior aggression and tactical intelligence. Under no circumstances should contact be attempted. Recommend immediate quarantine of entire system. Jake Morrison drove home as the alien ship disappeared into space. He took a hot shower, ate dinner, and watched television with his wife. When she asked about his day, he said it was quiet, except for dealing with a problem bear. He never mentioned that he had just redefined humanity's place in the galaxy. He never knew that his actions had saved his species from premature contact with aliens who might have seen them as a threat to be eliminated. To Jake, it had just been another day protecting the forest he loved. To the galaxy beyond, humanity had just announced itself as the most dangerous species that had ever evolved. The message would sit in alien archives for decades, ensuring that when humans finally reached the stars, they would find a galaxy that already knew to treat them with respect and fear. Jake Morrison, park ranger and former Marine, had become humanity's first and most effective ambassador to the stars. He just never knew it.